Is I need to explain a DV first of all, and from the perspective of DV, just so we get an understanding of what domestic violence is.
Sure.
And also as well to share that domestic violence is broken down into two areas.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So the first area is isolated acts of violence. So this is when, if you like, when you've got the domestic violence issues going on within the home, there's arguing, raised voices, etc., and it can get to a point where violence takes place.
Physical violence.
Physical violence takes place.
Yeah.
These can be things that just happen, ad hoc during the arguments. And when the acts of violence take place, this can be something that a woman can perpetrate or a man. Obviously, a man in that circumstance is potentially going to cause a lot more harm in these isolated acts of violence.
Of course.
Then the second one I'd like to explain is this is the sustained act of patterned behaviour. Mm-hmm. So what this means is that this is increases in frequency and severity, and it's something that is ongoing, and as I said, the severity can increase in this, and it's normally the perpetrator of this is male.
Right.
Often or mostly it's male.
Right.
So these are things that are stemming more from, there's emotional abuse, economical abuse,
right,
controlling behaviours. These are all things that stem from issues like, patriarchal society.
Yeah.
Very much when we refer to domestic violence professionals, they would call this sustained pattern of abuse. They would rate it as a controlling or his controlling behaviours.
Yeah, the guy's controlling behaviours.
Guys controlling behaviours.
Yeah.
Isolated acts, like I said, can be male or female. The male's got more potential to do more harm.
Yeah.
But when we talk about sustained acts of repetitive abuse, we're referring to men specifically.
Yeah. So we're referring to men specifically. And just to deal with the first bit, that could be a situation where somebody comes home, they've had a bad day, they're under pressure, then the dog's been let out, and then the kids are screaming, and then they lose it. Is that what the isolated aspect of violence might be? So they lose their rag in that moment, but they're not necessarily about, it's just like boom, an explosion, and then we have to do some form of relationship repair, or I might go off and sulk or whatever and come back, and I might say nothing, but I might just go all silent. But the fact is, it just comes in isolation, or maybe not continual.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes, Hilton. So it's, as you said they're acts that are just sparked, in regards to, there might be come out of stress, like you said, a lot of pressure going on at work. These are isolated incidents where, as I shared about my experience in family life, that's what I used to see, heated arguments, and then there was, maybe it went to violence or maybe it didn't.
Yeah.
But it could be equal from either side. The woman could be the perpetrator of that or the man.
Right.
Worst case scenario, we know a lot of damage can be done in those situations.
Yeah.
They're just situations that are stem from the particular scenario and the environment, if you like.
Okay, yep. So the situation specific,
yes,
they're not, if you like, on a continual basis, which is what the second thing is you're talking about, and that's a different animal by the sound of things.
Yes. So when we're talking about sustained patterns, there's a number of things that come involved. So as I said, patriarchal society, we've got that.
I think maybe we should explain patriarchal, what that actually means.
Sure. So what we're talking about is from society, there's a conditioning, if you like, where a man is seen in a specific light. So he may be portrayed as the provider. He may be portrayed that he has to have a specific power within society, cannot be perceived as weak. we've got all of these conditions which stem back for hundreds, maybe thousands of years in regards to, if we talk about masculinity.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
Also,
and it's where the man is really like more or less the king of the castle,
yes,
and is expected to be like that,
yes,
and be seen to be like that.
Yes, and we can refer back to, I guess, the late 50s when we saw this emergence of the stoic man, if you like, for industrialization, and as you said, the man, he's the king of the home, and all of these different things stemmed out of that. And we would often align a man with someone that was emotionless, unless it was anger or rage within the family. To be more nurturing and stuff like that was more a role that we perceive with the woman of the family.
Yeah, great. So anyway, you were explaining this systemic domestic violence characteristic, which is much more ongoing and sounds to me, from what you're saying, Dean, much more kind of calculated.
Yes. So if we look at it from the aspect of this controlling behaviour, and we look at what's the driver behind that, what we will see is that in experience is that the man is using dominating types of behaviours.
Right.
It's almost like he's using these behaviours so the woman cannot escape. So, and these are the types of things that we hear within the media when we hear about, Rosie Batty being one of the best examples of that. When we heard about those behaviours where, the man may be, being great for, great father for say a month or so, and then suddenly these controlling behaviours start to come back in, and this domination and control of finances and all of these different things, which is what we're referring to as these sustained repetitive patterns of abuse.
So when the controlling behaviour might be, as an example, I'm thinking like restricting access to friends, perhaps, or certainly trying to control the aspect of her friends, where she would it be maybe involve checking her phone, certainly to do with the finance of the home, how much money she has, and all this kind of thing. So is there an aspect of jealousy wrapped up in that?
Interesting. Good question. There's a number of things wrapped up in that. So it is so they might be some of the emotions that are driving some of these behaviours. But ultimately, it's if we was to break it down, we would look at if we was to put it within the behaviour addiction paradigm, and we looked at it this way. So if we was to think about a gambler, if you like, to look at it as the aspects of the gambler. So in regards to the gambler, he's always looking to get that next fix, if you like.
Sure.
Whether it's the horses, whether it's sports. It's that addiction to want to get that feeling of feeling good again.
Yeah, right.
So some of those underlying emotions like jealousy, not feeling good enough, not feeling like the patriarchal man within the home,
feeling a little less than,
can be possibly driving these controlling behaviours, if you like, from that need to feel better about themselves.
Okay.
So if we look at a gambler, would be a great example. So they go and put the money on the horse. They feel good again until the loss comes. Yeah. And when we talk about DV, the loss may come in that clearing up the mess after the next episode of domestic violence.
Yeah. The next explosion.
Right. Often we see those explosions accompanied with guilt, shame. We hear stories of the partner or husband, just being the nicest person ever to their wife or girlfriend or partner after the incident. Because they're going through those very difficult emotions, and they're trying to repair the damage. Yes, the remorse phase.
Yeah.